Good morning, Minnesota. Welcome to the September edition of the SSIS Coffee Talk. Today's subject is going to be SSIS and MNYTD, known by most of you as MNYTD. So let's get into the agenda for today. We'll have introductions at the beginning of each presenter that comes on. They'll go ahead and introduce themselves, let you know who they are. My name is Ross. I'll be your host today. I am an instructional designer with the SSIS user support team. We're going to go over some housekeeping and some tennis and the Tennyson warning. We'll, of course, go through some updates and some announcements. We'll get into the meat of the training, and we'll cover some SSIS resources, and then we'll have some closing announcements. Make sure you stick around for those. Attendees have been muted and have been upon entry. To speak, you can go ahead and raise your hand using the reaction emoji at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be unmuted by our panelists. Questions can also be submitted using the chat feature. That seems to be the most popular way, which will be monitored by the SSIS Business Ops staff. Closed captioning can be enabled using the CC button located on the bottom left of your screen. This session is recorded and will be posted on the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy website in the near future. A follow-up document will be prepared and distributed to attendees 7 to 10 days following this WebEx. We'll be moving to the Tennyson warning. We'll give you a chance to take a look at the Tennyson warning here and read through that. Basically, if you decide to stay on this meeting, you may be recorded. So just giving you your options. I'll give you a chance to read it. Be right back. Hopefully that was long enough for you to take a look at what your rights are with the Tennyson warning. And I am going to pass it off to Miss Heidi so she can talk about our Mentor of the Month. Take it away, Heidi.
Thank you, Ross. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to share that this month's Mentor of the Month is Lackey Parle's Matthew Calder. Matthew is nominated by Melinda Robertson, who shared the following. Matthew has gone above and beyond in identifying and correcting numerous data errors by looking at every single SSIS report that he could generate, many of which our county had not previously used. His diligence in tracking down discrepancies and seeking clarification on complex issues has resulted in significantly cleaner and more accurate data sets. Matthew consistently demonstrates dedication, technical expertise, and a willingness to support and uplift others. His proactive approach to problem solving and his ability to communicate complex SSIS concepts in a clear and approachable manner have made a significant impact on both new and experienced users alike. He is always one of the first to offer assistance, share best practices, and contribute thoughtful feedback to improve our collective workflow. In addition to his technical contributions, Matthew exemplifies what it means to be a mentor. He shares his knowledge generously, supports his colleagues with patience and clarity, and continuously looks for ways to improve our collective understanding of SSIS. His efforts have strengthened our data integrity and our team's confidence in the system. So thank you, Matthew. We appreciate your contributions as SSIS mentor. And if any of you have someone you would like to nominate as the Mentor of the Month, please feel free to send me an email with a few sentences about the mentor who you would like to have nominated, and we will get back to you. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a good day.
Thanks, Heidi, and congrats, Matthew. Next up, we'll have SSIS section updates.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Kret, and I supervise the user support team here at SSIS Central at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And we're going to start off with our announcements here. We would like to welcome our new SSIS Business Section Manager, David Hemela, to the team as of tomorrow. So you all know and love David from the biweekly reach outs to mentors for technical issues. He's sat at the help desk for many, many years. He'll probably formally introduce himself as our manager in coffee talks to come. So really glad to have Dave Hemela on board with us. Lots of technical and SSIS expertise. I also want to formally welcome my colleague, Erica Jepson, to the supervisor pool here in the SSIS business section. Erica has been working in an out-of-class position for close to 6 months and has officially accepted the full-time position of the SSIS Business Operations Supervisor. And you've seen her in past webinars. She's been a subject matter expert here with the SSIS team for a little over 3 years. And she's also a commissioner of Becker County. So it's kind of cool. Welcome, Erica. So glad to have you part of the supervisor pool officially. And then we have a SSIS financial coordinator who will be joining us tomorrow as well. So tomorrow's a big day here at SSIS. We have Jackie Lane. She will help coordinate some of our finances, hopefully, and set us on the right track for modernization. So welcome, Erica, Dave, and Jackie to the team. If Cynthia is here and would like to make a modernization update, I will hand the mic over to her.
Thank you so much, Eric. We're so excited to for those announcements this morning. We've been working really diligently. We know we have to do things a little bit differently and are super happy to have some more staff on board to help us really collaborate better internally and make sure that we have transparent and finances and are really maximizing all the dollars wherever we can. So I have a few really exciting updates that I want to share with folks. First of all, I want to share that our Engagement HQ site for SSIS modernization is going to launch within the next week or two. For a lot of folks are really familiar with our TET work that Sam Breidenbach has been leading, and our EHQ work will be similar to similar cadence and similar structure, that we will have a real homepage for communication and really engagement around all things related to modernization. So really excited for that. And we will share very broadly out. And for folks who are on listservs, we'll be making sure that you all have that information. I just wanted to give a very brief update on our readiness activities. As you know, we've been working on the scope. So I want to say thanks to all of the folks from around the state who participated in those conversations and who reached out and who met with me at individual agencies over the past couple of months. All of that information is being synthesized and summarized and will be shared out with our commissioner of our Minute Commissioner, Tarek Tomes, and our Department of Children, Youth, and Family Commissioner, Commissioner Tiki Brown on Monday, and will also be shared out with very broadly again on our EHQ page. As we're working through the rest of our readiness work this fall and into early next spring to be ready to figure out what our modernization is really going to look like, have everything ready. We are now going to be working on our business process inventory and mapping, working through all of the requirements for a new system, and really figuring out what is the best approach for us to plan building a new house and really building an entire SSIS neighborhood. And to that, I want to say thanks. We have about 120 or so folks that will be working and partnering with us. A lot of mentors I have seen on this list, but this is a list. We had asked Maxa for representatives, and so for those of you who are on that, thank you very much. We will have a lot more information and detailed information out soon, and really appreciate folks who have stood up and will be working with us to provide feedback and input on our requirements as we gather that information for over the next couple of months. And I also wanted to announce that we do have a readiness vendor that is partnering with us on ensuring that we are really doing the most thorough and effective job for planning what our new SSIS world is going to look like. So we have welcomed, as of yesterday, a company called CSG, and they will be working with us on all of those readiness activities. And I would say very broadly, we hope to have the various pieces that need to be done to really set the stage for a successful modernization, all packaged up and ready by this spring. Our target is March. And again, the details of all of that will be on our engagement HQ. So when that is up, I encourage folks to look there. And as I mentioned, we will have that site up within the next week or two, and we'll share that out broadly with everyone. In the meantime, if you do have any questions about SSIS or modernization in any ways, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and I'll put my email in the chat. And that is what I have for everyone this morning on modernization.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Great. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, radio off.
No problem. Bye.
Just a quick time entry transformation update. We are currently piloting with Stearns County. Our product manager, Samantha Breidenbach, wanted me to announce that. And for all of those who are wanting to get a little bit of a jump start on SSIS time entry, they may do so here on the front page of our resource page. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see quite a few job aids related to that project as of right now. The next thing that I wanted to touch on with everybody is that the learning and development team has a couple of updates. And one of those updates is that we are looking to launch the Child Protection Worker Basics for SSIS in October. We're doing a little bit of a soft launch. And you can find information related to the new Child Protection Basics training on that resource page that I just showed you, and I'm going to bring that back over here. I will throw a link into the chat for you. But to give you the basics, what we've tried to do is we've tried to whittle down our 8-hour course from the past into smaller digestible chunks. And we'll continue to follow the life of the case, but we're going to try to do it in a way that makes sense for workers at different agencies, because as you may or may not know, agencies scale their services a little bit different. They have different pools of people working on different things. So we are catering it to intake classes. We are catering it to assessment work group classes. And these will follow the life of a case model for a family assessment or a family investigation. And then we also have a class that focuses on some of the data entry for case management. Now, I want to just put a caveat to that. We do not focus heavily on permanency related data entry, nor do we focus on ICWA related data entry for these newer courses. But we will in the near future. We are going to build permanency and ICWA related modules in the near future. So we just wanted to give people the basics, and you can see how those courses are spliced out and listed here. And we also wanted to offer space for people to participate and practice what they learn in our virtual classes in what we call the SSIS Child Protection Self-Guided Practice Clinics. So there's information regarding all of this on that page that I just threw into the chat. And registration for the SSIS basics classes you can find on our SSIS engagement and information page. And I'll throw that into the chat as well. Over here in the right-hand corner, you can scroll down and you can see the different registration links for the Child Protection Basics classes that we have launched now. Moving on, we also have, sorry, I keep having to minimize that, but there's a share bar up there that I can't see. We have our SSIS adult protection training, and it will cover the new strengths and needs assessment tool, as well as the adult service plan. There have been many requests as to when the training dates will be made. So the upcoming SSIS adult protection training sessions will span 2 days from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can find that information on our adult protection training page here. And I will throw that into the chat as well. So as you scroll down, you get basic description of day 1 and day 2 and directions to register for those classes on TrainLink. This is the only one of our courses right now that we have folks registering for on TrainLink, but we plan to move to the learning management system with these other courses that I've outlined in the near future. And then last but not least, I do want to touch on the Engagement HQ site again. All of our upcoming coffee talks, the sandbox training materials, our child welfare or child protection basics, adult protection training, and then we have one more quarter where we're going to be offering a CWTCM training, and that's hosted by our trainer, Carrie Kaiser, and that sign up link is on this page as well. So if you're interested in learning more about CWTCM, navigate to that Engagement HQ page and sign up for this final training of the year, and we'll get more going for the next year as well. So those are my training updates, and now I think we'll just go ahead and get into the part of the presentation, the reason why everybody's here today, and that is to learn about the Minnesota National Youth and Transition Database, as we are on the cusp of a survey year starting October 1st of 2025. So today's learning objectives are to explain the overall purpose of MNYTD, to meet federal requirements for IL services, and to measure state outcomes for youth in the out-of-home placement. We hope that you can list the 2 main MNYTD agency requirements, which is documenting IL services and completing the IL survey. We hope that you can describe who is considered an eligible youth for the IL services documentation. We hope that you can differentiate between the baseline population of 17-year-olds surveyed by the local social service agency and the follow-up surveys at ages 19 and 21. And those are collected by a private vendor that we contract with, also known as the Improve Group. We hope that you can recall the MNYTD Notice of Privacy Practices and that it's required before conducting the MNYTD survey. We hope that you can summarize why it's important to record a youth's MNYTD survey answers exactly as they're provided, even if a caseworker believes them to be inaccurate. We hope that you can explain the functions of the MNYTD contact sheet in assisting with future follow-up surveys. And finally, we hope that you can describe the functions of the MNYTD searches in SSIS and NYTD survey NYTD survey do that is housed in Tableau. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to pass the baton over to my co-host, Kim Lemke, who will introduce herself and talk to you a little bit about NYTD and MNYTD.
Good morning. So I'll turn my camera on for my introduction so that you guys can see my face. Kim Lemke, I'm the State Independent Living Coordinator with Foster Youth and Transition Services Unit. So let's talk about NYTD and MNYTD. So the Chafee program, which is our stay program, requires a client-specific data system to track independent living services provided to youth and defined outcomes that measure each state's performance in preparing youth for successful transition to adulthood from foster care to independent living. States received program instructions on NYTD reporting requirements in 2008, with the stipulation that data reporting began October 1, 2010. The law mandates reporting of required information through the SSIS system, soon to be our SSIS, known as SSIS in Minnesota. The National Youth in Transition Database, so NYTD, is a system that collects federally required data about youth from each state. Each state can experience fiscal penalties when data is not entered as required. The Minnesota Youth in Transition Database, so MNYTD, that we know it here, provides the federally required data from Minnesota. The data collected is specific to two separate areas, different reporting areas. So we have the Independent Living Services screen and we have surveys, and we will discuss this more as we move through the presentation. So we have three different target populations. Our first one is served youth. This is all youth, regardless of placement history, receiving an independent living service paid for or provided by an agency, whether with stay funding or not. Services provided by foster parents, group home staff, or other contracted workers are also recorded on an ongoing basis. Our second target population is our baseline youth. All youth in placement on or within 45 days after their 17th birthday, not before their 17th birthday, regardless of whether they've received any independent living services. This means youth in voluntary placements, corrections youth in foster care, and youth who have temporarily run or are missing from placement. States collect information on a new baseline of youth meeting the above criteria every 3 federal fiscal years. And our third population is our follow-up youth at ages 19 and 21. Youth in the baseline population who completed the MNYTD survey are asked to respond to the survey again at ages 19 and 21, regardless of whether they are still in care. The improved group locates, communicates with, surveys, and administers incentives to these youth until they reach 21. County and tribal agency staff may become aware of contact between the improved group and youth on their caseloads. The improved group may also contact agency staff in attempts to locate youth. Because the improved group is under contract with the department, county and tribal agency staff are allowed to share any information with them.
The next thing that we're going to talk to you about is the MNYTD Independent Living Services.
So with our MNYTD Independent Living Services, this is so our eligible youth with this is youth between the ages of 14 and 23. In Minnesota, it's up to 23 because we have extended foster care. States that don't have extended foster care, it only goes up to 21. But so any of our youth who are receiving any independent living service, who are in any SSIS work group or receiving services through one of our Stay in the Community grantees, fit into this eligible youth. MNYTD requires that any independent living services provided to transitional youth be entered in SSIS in the MNYTD IL services screen. A new screen must be created for each federal reporting period. Blue context-sensitive health text includes definitions of these services. This is on the same reporting schedule as the Adoption and Foster Care Analysis and Reporting System, or what we know as AFCARS, which is October 1st through March 31st and April 1st through September 30th.
Thanks, Kim. So this next slide shows examples of service providers over on the left-hand side, and those can include relative or non-relative agency licensed foster parents, therapeutic or treatment foster care providers, group home staff, residential treatment staff, residential treatment facility staff, educational institution staff, publicly accessed service professionals, privately contracted service professionals, interim shelter care workers, or primary, secondary, tribal, or other agency caseworkers. Now, this list obviously isn't exhaustive of all of the different types of IL service providers out there, but we did want to provide some examples for you. So examples of IL service providers are again listed on the left-hand side of the screen. And again, the focus of IL services is to prepare the youth who are ages 14 to 23 for adult life. These youth are expected eventually to live independently. And then the youth does not have to complete the IL service in order for it to be entered into SSIS. So once again, the youth does not have to complete the IL service in order for it to be entered into SSIS. There are a series of videos throughout this presentation that are going to show you data entry in SSIS. And I do want to warn you that you might want to do a quick volume check because the next video comes in a little hot and a little bit loud. And then working with one of our e-developers, we could not get the AI voice that we use for this particular video to say MNYTD properly. So you're going to hear a lot of MNYTD. So every time you hear MNYTD, take a drink of coffee. Here we go.
Hello, and welcome to this quick training on how to enter independent living services into the Minnesota Youth in Transition Database, also known as MNYTD, using SSIS. Let's begin. First, open SSIS and navigate to the Participants folder for your client. Then, select the Adolescent Services folder. Users may create new MNYTD ILS services in several ways after selecting the Adolescent Services folder. Selecting the new MNYTD IL Services Quick Add icon. Selecting the Action button and selecting New MNYTD IL Services option. Or right-clicking on the Adolescent Services folder. This brings up the Action menu. From here, click on New MNYTD IL Services. The MNYTD IL Services screen will now appear. Start by selecting the reporting period. Users may select the previous period, the current period, or the next period. Choose either October through March or April through September. The screen will default to the current reporting period. Then, choose the appropriate IL Services worker from the drop-down menu. The drop-down includes a list of all agency workers. I will choose the name Krat Eric after using the Type Ahead feature. In the Services Provided section, place a check mark next to each independent living service that the youth received. Click inside the box next to each applicable service. If the service provided is not listed, check the box for Other. Then type a brief description of that service in the box provided. Now, complete the final 3 fields. First, the youth's highest education level completed. Select the blue underlined help text for further guidance. Second, indicate whether the youth has a specialized education plan. And third, state whether the youth has ever been an adjudicated delinquent. Select yes or no for each. One last note. Be sure to document this same IL services information in the client's service plan. That could be their out-of-home placement plan or their independent living plan, whichever applies.
Okay, so I do see a couple questions in the chat, and we will get to questions. I have a question slide at the end of each section here. So we will get to your questions, I promise. I just want to talk a little bit about IL Services best practices. It's important that IL Services data is accurate for federal reporting. When closing a case with a client 14 and older, you want to ensure the IL Services screen reflects referrals and services made by the primary and all secondary caseworkers and related providers. And you want to update any inaccurate data before it's pulled for that report. IL Services data is editable until collected. Select additional checkboxes as are relevant and change the answers to the questions at the bottom of the screen when applicable. If the youth is receiving case management services from more than one caseworker and possibly within more than one work group, the agency decides which caseworker enters the IL services into SSIS. And then the next screen is going to discuss how to search for IL services or how to search for individuals receiving IL services in SSIS. Again, keep that mouse next to that volume button because some of these videos can come in a little bit loud. And I don't think this video has an AI voice, so you're off the hook with the coffee drinking. Hello and welcome to this video presentation related to MNYTD searches in the Social Service Information System. The first MNYTD search that we will be discussing is the MNYTD IL Services search. In order to locate the MNYTD IL Services search in the Social Service Information System, a user will navigate over to the Searches and Logs option on the Windows menu toolbar. Navigate down the menu until MNYTD Searches is viewed, and notice when hovering over MNYTD Searches, a user can see the three related searches. The top one is the one we're going to be talking about in this video, and it is the MNYTD IL Service search. So we will go ahead and select that. Users within this particular screen can search by a worker's unit or by the worker. The active workers only checkbox filters out inactive workers. If you want to search for inactive worker criteria as well, you can go ahead and deselect that checkbox. As you navigate down the screen, more search criteria appear. You can enter the first and last name of the client by hitting the person search icon to the right of those fields and searching for that individual in your agency's database. If you happen to know the individual's county person number or SSIS person number, you may enter those here as well. The next couple of fields that we see here are related to the federal reporting year and or period. So you'll want to select a year, for example, 2025, and then the period, which would either be the 6-month period from October to March, or the other 6-month reporting period from April to September. As we navigate down this screen, we see more search criteria here for highest education level completed, from and to, special education plans, or is this individual an adjudicated delinquent? And then finally, as we get to the bottom portion of the screen, we see to include records for youth with any selected service areas. The first checkbox we see up here to the top left is a select all option. It's going to select all of the independent living service categories. If you do not want to select all, you can go ahead and just deselect that or begin selecting particular categories that you're interested in searching. And just by simply selecting another checkbox, we'll deselect that select all option. I'll go ahead and enter some data, and then we'll go ahead and attempt a search. In this first example, I've just put the unit and I selected all. I've left all the other search criteria open, and I'll go ahead and select search, and we'll see what happens. It does appear by just entering the unit, I have yielded results for this particular unit and for the particular IL services workers. Notice up here on the top left, we have that column chooser. We can definitely add a couple more columns if we'd like to, not necessary. But when we click on that, we see a couple of other categories that are not highlighted right now that we could add in as columns, and that would be county person number or the SSIS person number. Simply selecting these will bring them into the grid. We're going to go ahead and deselect those, however. Notice how wherever you're selected in the results grid, that person's particular IL service screen will appear below in the display. To clear your search criteria, you can come over here under the search button and select clear. Notice in this example that I was a little bit more prudent or conservative and entered as much information as I could in the fields to narrow down results if I'm looking for particular IL services related to this particular client. Then I'll navigate over to the search criteria and see what we get. We have the particular client that we were looking for in the particular year and reporting period. Just a little bit more about the IL service search. Caseworkers and supervisors may use the IL services search to gather information as to which services and by whom are most or least provided to youth within their agency or their caseload, and whether there are any correlations between these services and educational levels, special education plans, and or delinquency. This may assist in planning for future IL services and contracts or agency service provision. We're going to check the IL services screen prior to the end of March and the end of September each calendar year to be certain that the IL services being reported to the National Youth in Transition database reflect the youth on your caseload are up to date. So just again, a couple of highlights. Tracking IL services as provided by worker or unit to a particular youth, to a particular education level, IEP or delinquency, and users may sort by a particular service, a combination of services, or may select all services. So that's just a little overview of the MNYTD IL service search in SSIS. And fortunately for you, we get to take a little break and we get to answer some questions. And I do see quite a few questions populating the chat here. And I'm going to bring Kim back in to answer some of these if I cannot. So how will community agencies know if a youth has an open SSIS work group to know if they should track IL services for a youth they are serving?
So community agencies don't need to know if there's an open SSIS work group. They have their own portal that they document everyone that they work with. So they're going to document on the youth that they work with. And then behind the scenes, we pull all of their information, pull all the information from SSIS, merge it together before it's sent to the feds. So they don't need to know. We just collect their information.
Thanks, Kim. Kaylee writes in, sorry I had a phone call, so I missed a few minutes there, but something that I feel has been unclear between counties I've worked at, or even the teams I've worked with, is whether this is always just during that quarter, whether they've had these services, or if it's adding up over time. I always thought it was the current period, whether they participated in any way, but others have said, no, you always keep the check marks from past times too.
So I can take that one as well. So it's for that 6-month period. So I think sometimes where the confusion comes in is when you're looking at that 6-month period at the beginning of the 6th month, if you check something that they did, let's say in that first month, you never want to deselect that. You want to keep that through the 6 months, and then you would just keep adding through that 6-month period. And then once we collect that information after that 6 months, the new screen for the next 6-month period will be brand new. So you don't have to go back in and add what's already been done. It's just looking specifically at that 6-month period. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Kim. If you have any follow-up questions, folks, you can throw them into the chat as well. The next one I have is, will you enter services provided by outside providers too, or just within human services agencies? And maybe you answered that already.
Sure, and I just as a follow-up, our grantees do have their own portal, but any other service providers, if they're like foster parents, you're going to want to enter what they do. If you're making referrals to, let's say for driver's ed, that you're referring them out for that service, you would check that in there. So it is, you know, any services that you're providing directly or having other people provide on our behalf.
All right. We don't enter the placements in SSIS for corrections, so no IL services would be entered for these children. Would that, you want to take
That's
that too, Kim?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct. So every county does things a little bit differently. Some of you have your Title 4E agreements with corrections, or if you're an umbrella county, you know, different reasons that you do enter correction placements when they're in foster care. Those that are entered in SSIS should then have that IL screen. If you do not have them entered as a placement, then there's no need to do that. The other case that I would say is, even though you don't have a placement entered, if you have an open work group, you would still enter those services for children that you're serving. Does that help?
I think so, Kim. Thanks. Do you have to enter the highest education level completed, et cetera, when searching? I think I can take that one. As evidenced by the video, you can enter as much search criteria as you'd like, or you can enter, you know, one of the fields and still potentially yield search results. And then we have another question. DD, CD, and CW cases. Sorry, it jumped. DD, CD, and CW cases are included, correct?
Yes.
All right. So what if I did the IL services search along with you while you explained it and found absolutely nothing? I did my search based on the information that I had in the system, so you may want to, you know, search for any particular units in your agency that you feel would be providing services to youth and out-of-home placement. You should get, if you don't get any results, then potentially folks aren't entering IL services for the youth who are 14 and up. And then we have a thank you for the answer to the question as a follow-up for community agencies that provide a wide variety of services to youth, including things like therapy and other services that might be subject to HIPAA. How is data privacy protected? For example, they might be identifying a client they serve via therapy when submitting information via the portal, or a youth without any open work group to DCYF.
So to clarify, this is only, the portal is only available to stay in the community providers. So they are under contract with us and providing, you know, these services to our eligible youth.
And then I got a follow-up regarding the search saying that they did enter the unit potentially that would have children in out-of-home placement that are 14 and up. And the follow-up question, how can we use the search for what youth have screens missing when they should have one? I'm thinking. Let me think about that a little bit, Crystal, and I will get back to you. I'm just operating under the assumption that if you're not getting any results in the MNYTD IL services, that there could potentially not be IL services added in the system.
The one thing I would add to that is, because this is not required for only stay eligible youth, this is any youth that you're working with age 14 to 21 or up to 23 in our case. But so if you're working with youth 14, up to that 21, 23, there should be screens. So if you're not finding anything, then they're not being done. So I would suggest looking at what youth do you have in that age range, and then talking to those workers about completing the screens.
All right. Thanks, Kim. I'm going to direct Kim to the chat and see if she can answer Misty's follow-up questions. We have to continue on as we have more slides to get through. So next thing that we're going to talk about is the MNYTD survey. So continue to ask your questions, and if we don't get to them today, then we will do a follow-up email. So the screen that you're seeing now shows the Minnesota Youth in Transition Database Notice of Privacy Practices. And the MNYTD survey has its own specific privacy notice, which is listed on this slide. It must be provided to the youth prior to completing the survey. No signature is required. And reviewing this document with the youth assists in explaining the survey purpose and process.
So the MNYTD baseline survey criteria is when the MNYTD baseline survey is required for the federal fiscal year, include youth whose 17th birthdays occur on or after October 1, 2025 to September 30th, 2026. So that's for this current baseline period. And who are in out-of-home placement either on their 17th birthday or within 45 days after their 17th birthday. When the birth date criteria are met, the placement criteria must also be met before the survey is required. So the youth must be in placement for 24 hours or longer through either a voluntary placement, a court order, or a 72-hour police protective hold. So there are some exceptions. The survey is not required if all of the eligible dates are while the youth is on a court-ordered trial home visit or that they are held in a locked juvenile detention facility. So these are ones that you'd really have to watch, because if they start the early dates that they're in these, but they end up leaving and going back into foster care or whatever the case might be, then you would still need to do that survey and within that 45-day window. So these are ones that you really want to be careful to watch the dates.
Okay, and the next video is just going to introduce you to how to produce the survey in SSIS. It doesn't go into great detail about how to fill it out, but just where to find the actual survey and the blank form.
Hello, and welcome to this quick training on the MNYTD survey process in SSIS. In this video, you'll learn how to enter survey data for eligible youth in the Minnesota Youth in Transition database, also known as MNYTD. To get started, open SSIS and navigate to the Participants folder in the case. Then, under the Individual's Person node, select Adolescent Services. Next, right-click the Adolescent Services folder in the tree view to open the Action menu. From the menu, select New MNYTD Survey. On the MNYTD survey screen, you'll see several important fields at the top. Population, which defines the youth's survey group, sample follow-up, and survey status. Youth who are eligible, specifically those in placement within 45 days after turning 17, must complete the baseline MNYTD survey independently. If the youth cannot complete the survey electronically, you may print a blank form for them to fill out manually. Once completed, you'll need to enter the responses into SSIS for accurate reporting. To print a blank MNYTD survey, go to the Windows menu toolbar, click Tools, then choose General Reports. Open the MNYTD folder, then select MNYTD blank forms. From there, choose MNYTD Survey. You can then print, save, or email the form, depending on your needs. And that's it. You're now ready to enter MNYTD survey data in SSIS. Thank you for your attention and for helping ensure youth voices are heard in the transition planning process.
One thing I wanted to point out, this video didn't mention that you can also, once you create the survey in SSIS under the Adolescent Service folder, under the survey contact folder, if you right click on that, you can also create a blank form from the tree view there as well. So it's important that we cover some survey completion best practices. Caseworkers may complete the survey together with the youth on the SSIS screen or print a paper copy as covered in the video and return later to SSIS and enter the youth's responses. To complete the survey with the youth on the SSIS screen, you want to make sure you click on the survey node to hide the grid. And click the splitter bar on the left and drag it all the way across to the left so that the tree view is hidden to protect confidentiality. This ensures that only the MNYTD survey displays on the SSIS screen. And I'll probably say this again in the future, but until the survey is completed in SSIS, it is considered not completed. Let me reword that again. You have to enter the data into SSIS in order for it to be considered completed. So due to continued struggles with engaging youth in follow-up surveys, county or tribal agencies should offer monetary incentives such as $20 paid with stay funds to those who complete their age 17 youth surveys. Agencies should also inform youth of the importance of completing follow-up surveys. The incentives for the 19 and 21-year-old youth surveys are $100 provided by the Improve Group. Youth will also receive a welcome card and birthday cards with $10. There are also raffles periodically for youth to update their contact information and stay in touch. And we'll talk a little bit about those online resources in a second. So at the top right of this slide, you will see the reporting status categories. Definitions can be found in the bulletin that is linked to this slide. And Heidi did send this information out via Mentor Blast prior to, but you can find the bulletin if you didn't receive the PowerPoint on Partner Link. And I won't go into great detail, but in order to save the survey, you're going to want to indicate the reporting status, whether it was youth participated or youth declined. And one thing that I want to talk about is parent declined. Parent declined may only be selected if the child is reunited with the parent while eligible to complete the baseline survey. So this is an image of the survey screen in SSIS taken from the past. So you'll see a past date, but it still looks like this all these years later in 2025. You're going to click yes, no, or decline to answer for each question on the survey. The youth may decline to answer particular questions, but still have a reporting status of youth participated. So I want people to understand that the youth may decline to answer a particular question, but still have a reporting status of youth participated. The survey cannot be saved until an option is selected for each question. The youth must answer at least one question to have the reporting status of youth participated. And I'll repeat that again. The youth must answer at least one question to have the reporting status of youth participated. Yusuf is a panelist with us. He's from the research and evaluation team with Child Safety and Permanency. And if he wants to chime in on this report, he can do that. I'm just going to cover some of the basics. So individuals at agencies who have access to Tableau Server, there is a list of baseline youth that is available in Tableau. Because this list can change every 2 weeks, we advise folks to check it frequently to see surveys completed, due, past due, and forthcoming. Tableau access is available in SSIS Administration's Active Directory. And if you are wanting more information about how to access this report, you can contact the CSP research team with that email handle that's listed on the slide. And I didn't know if Yusuf had anything he wanted to add.
No, you covered it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So if you have questions about Tableau or accessing this report, you may feel free to ask them in the chat while we have Yusuf available with us. In this, sorry folks, we got a video coming up. Also in SSIS, we have under the MNYTD IL, or I'm sorry, the MNYTD searches, we have a couple of other searches that are going to be covered in the next 2 videos. We have the MNYTD survey search, as well as the MNYTD survey do search. And the MNYTD survey do search serves the same function as this Tableau report you see on this page. So we'll go ahead and start those 2 videos now. Hello and welcome to this video presentation on MNYTD searches and the Social Service Information System. This second video is in relation to the MNYTD survey search. Users will find this particular survey search the same way they found the IL services search, by navigating over to searches and logs, and then navigating over to the MNYTD searches. This time we're going to look for that MNYTD survey search. Again, we can search by unit, we can search by worker, and the active workers only checkbox will filter out inactive workers. We can search by the client's name by either typing it in or using the person search icon to the right. If you happen to know the county person number or the SSIS person number, you may enter those here. And we have quite a few date ranges to choose from. We can choose all, or we can choose from several options in the dropdown, including a custom date range at the bottom. I'm going to leave it at all for now. Reporting status, we're going to select a particular reporting status for that baseline survey. Did the youth participate in the survey? Did they answer some or all of the questions? Did the youth decline that initial survey? Refuse to answer any questions? Did the parent decline for that youth to take that survey? Was the youth incapacitated anyway? Did they have DD or similar status preventing them from taking the survey? Were they incarcerated at the time? Were they a runaway or missing at the time that their survey was due? Were the social services worker unable to locate or invite that particular client to take the survey? And finally, we have death. For this particular example, I'm going to select youth who participated. This next indicator over here says sample follow-up. This button will indicate prior to the youth's 19th birthday whether or not that particular individual has or has not been selected as part of the sample population to participate in a follow-up survey. This is a sample results screen for the survey search. Notice how the search field categories appear in the MNYTD IL services grid. You will see a list of names over here in your tree view. And by selecting any one of those names in particular will determine what you see in the display. And this will usually include their baseline 17-year-old survey. We also have a grid display here. And again, any line that you click on for a particular client will yield the results of their initial survey. Caseworkers and supervisors may use the survey search to determine how many surveys indicate youth were willing to participate versus how many surveys were completely declined by the youth at your agency. A high number of declined surveys may indicate the need to review the methods by which caseworkers are introducing the MNYTD surveys to the youth in their caseloads. Another thing we want to point out is this context column here. The context columns contains numbers which represent how many contacts those individual youth have associated to them. The higher the number of contacts, the greater likelihood that the contractor completing the follow-up surveys will be able to locate these same youth at ages 19 and 21. But you would see numbers, again, associated to each one of the line items in the grid. In this next video, we're going to talk about the MNYTD survey do search, which is that third survey search in the MNYTD survey search folder. Once again, to locate the survey searches, we're going to navigate to the searches and logs option in our Windows menu toolbar. And we're going to navigate down to MNYTD searches, and we'll select that third option, MNYTD survey do search. Once again, you have similar search parameters. The more information you provide, the narrower your search results will be. You can search by a particular unit at your agency, a particular worker, active workers only, or deselecting that box is going to give you inactive and active workers. You can search for a particular client's name by typing it in, first name, last name, or searching for that individual in the person search, or by typing in the county person number or SSIS person number. Notice we have quite a few date ranges to select from to help narrow our search results. I'm going to navigate down and I'm going to select the option that says next federal report period. And when I select that, notice how that is 10/1/2025 through March 31st of 2026. When I select the search option, it's going to yield the results of all the children that need a survey due in that period of time. In the search grid, the youth's name, date of birth, survey due date, and primary worker appear in the MNYTD survey due search grid. A broad search will return a larger listing of youth for whom a survey is due. Searching by a specific caseworker's name will display those surveys due for youth on that particular caseworker's caseload. Primary workers only, though. Just as searching by a particular unit will display all surveys due for all the youth in placements associated with work groups identified as belonging to that particular unit. Searching by a specific date range will display surveys due within specified date ranges. These include today and yesterday, this week and last week, this month and last month. Using the date range on the MNYTD survey search will be important for limiting the search results to youth whose 17th birthdays fall within the required federal fiscal baseline reporting years. This is the required population to be surveyed. If your agency does not plan to survey 17-year-old youth outside the required federal fiscal baseline reporting years, then be sure to limit the date range on the search to the dates that fall within the required federal fiscal baseline reporting years. For example, the next federal fiscal year to report will be October 1st of 2025 through September 30th of 2026. Baseline surveys occur every third federal fiscal year. A client node screen will appear below the MNYTD survey due search reflective of the youth's name, which is highlighted in the grid. This allows users to easily check the survey due search results against a youth's date of birth, ensuring that the youth's birth date is accurately entered as 17 years of age. Likely the most important function of the MNYTD survey due search is its use in assisting caseworkers and supervisors alike in determining those youth who qualify for and must be offered the MNYTD survey as per federal rules. Caseworkers are encouraged to use the MNYTD survey due search just as supervisors would to assist them in determining early on which youth on their caseload require the completion of the baseline population survey and corresponding contact sheet. Remember to provide the youth with a MNYTD notice of privacy practices, which is specified to the MNYTD survey. It does not require a signature and is for the youth's information. Also remember to complete as many contacts as possible with the youth and to ask the youth about less typical contact types, including social networks and gaming identities. Remind the youth about the sample follow-up survey incentives. To locate blank copies of the contact forms, the survey itself, as well as the notice of privacy practices, individuals can navigate up to the Tools option in the Windows menu toolbar and navigate to General Reports. Navigate to the MNYTD folder and select MNYTD blank forms. From the drop-down, the agency worker can select the MNYTD survey baseline as evidenced in a previous video, the contact sheets, or the notice of privacy practices. So I just want everybody to know, again, that the next MNYTD federal survey is between October 1st of 2025 and September 30th of 2026. This slide has a couple of hints about how to set the date range on that. You can do last MNYTD federal survey after September 30th of 2026. Use the next MNYTD federal survey year before 10/1/2025 if you want to get a little bit of a lay of the land and in terms of the youth that will be needing surveys for that federal report. And then just a little bit of a hint down here on the bottom right on the MNYTD survey do search. There is a column that you can add that shows the youth's 17th birthday as well. So again, you would use that field chooser up here in the left-hand side of the grid and select 17th birthday. And just a reminder, if youth's name displays for a survey due, exemptions will apply if the youth's placement, again, is in that locked juvenile detention facility or the youth is on a trial home visit. And you can view the youth's placement history by running a report specific to the youth, such as the placement's locations and absences by client. So if you go to that search result tree view and you right click on the person's name, on the client's name, you can navigate down to print, and then you'll see that placement's locations and absences by client. And you want to make sure that that client is in an eligible placement to ensure that they are due for that survey. And I just want to note here that for youth to meet the exemptions listed, Kim already did touch on this, they must be in a locked juvenile detention facility or trial home visit for the full 45 days post 17th birthday. If they go back to placement during that 45 days, they still need to take the survey. All right. Survey due clarifications. A youth who is discharged from placement on their 17th birthday would require the survey if their 17th birthday is during the required period between 10/1/2025 and September 30th, 2026. The placement lasted at least 24 hours and the placement does not meet one of those placement exemptions that we touched on, trial home visit or locked juvenile detention. So I realize we have quite a few questions in the chat and we are bumping up to the end of time here. So let's see if we can get through some of these and then follow up with some of them after the webinar if needed. So Kim did answer some of those questions in the chat. If you want to take a look. Kim said, even youth with DD should be able to receive services to be as independent as possible. There may be some youth with severe disabilities that will not be entered, but most should have something completed. Kim also answered a question. Surveys are only required during the survey years every 3 years. So somebody was asking if if folks should be surveying the youth every year. And the correct answer is they're only required during the survey years, which are those every 3 federal fiscal years. Okay, so we're going to move over to the next section, which goes over the MNYTD contacts, and we'll circle back to any questions you might have. And Kim, you're up.
Okay, so with collecting contact information, just remember that it's really critical that we have these to ensure successful outcomes for the follow-up surveys. They can also be useful for youth when they're transitioning out of placement so that they have a list of these contacts who are important to them. Record information on as many contact sheets as you can and encourage the youth to complete that. And name, address, phone, and email are standard. I would also say any social media. The other thing, a lot of times I will see only the youth is listed as a contact or the social worker is listed as a contact. Even if you look at the relationship tab within SSIS and you put those people on there, because that's the sheet that we actually send to improve group, so they don't see everything that we have in SSIS, but that can help them even when they're searching social media, because that's been very useful in finding our youth, that they can make sure they're contacting the correct youth when they see, oh, they're friends with this person who's also listed on their contact sheet. So it's just a way to verify that they are getting the correct youth that they're looking for. So as much information as possible would be great. Okay, so best practices with collecting contacts. It takes time, there's no doubt about that. So encourage the youth to list all of the following: people who they know well, could call for help, intend to remain in contact with them, family, friends, foster parents, godparents. Really, like I said, look at that relationship tab will help you with encouraging the youth to list people. Organizations with whom they have a close association, such as religious community, tribe, academic institution, employer, and then entities with whom they are likely to maintain contact, such as service providers, mentors, community groups. Our Stay in the Community grantees are a perfect example of that as well. Other things to consider. So just, if you needed someone or, help and someone would find you in 2 years, who would know where you are? So kind of help them with these questions. Who else should they contact? At what address? Phone numbers, emails. Again, organizations that will know where to find them. Any other methods of contact? Again, emails are great. Social media, and think outside the box. I know these are changing. Facebook is getting a little outdated. However, it's still very useful. But Snapchat, Instagram, Discord is kind of a new one that's out there. But anyone who would have any information about them, where they may be in the next 2 years, is helpful. Okay, and the Improve Group, that they're the agency that we contract with for our follow-up populations. So they utilize a combination of strong branding, as you can see in the right-hand corner. That's what their website looks like, and a human touch when contacting youth. So they have a person that is strictly, that is their job, to reach out to youth. And so they send out postcards in the mail. They do posts on social media so that people become familiar with the branding, as well as just their consistent people reaching out to them. So there are a few links taking you to the MNYTD website, as well as their Facebook page and Instagram. So these are some tips that Improve Group has learned over the years. But to ensure follow-up surveys can be completed in the future, tell us where the youth hopes to be in the future, explain the relationship with any person listed in the contact. This is especially good if there's bio parents, adoptive parents, if there's relationships that are a little shaky, it's helpful to know that information. Is the contact themselves, are they likely to be stable and stay in one location, or are they likely to move around as well? And the youth's legal first name and last name and any other names they go by. That's really helpful. And especially when we have youth who are adopted. Sometimes we have youth who are adopted after 17, after they take the survey. So their name may be different when they first take the survey as to when we're trying to locate them at 19 and 21. So any information with that is helpful as well. And again, more things that the Improve group has learned. So youth most difficult to locate had only one or no contacts entered at age 17. And I can vouch for that because they reached back out to me and say, we have no information. So then I have to go back into SSIS and see if I can find anything to help locate that youth. So put as much information as possible. American Indian youth tend to be less responsive to follow-up surveys, which to me makes sense with a lot of our tribes being hesitant with research and things like that, that a lot of times our American Indian youth are harder to follow up with. So listing someone for their tribe may be beneficial. And I also reach out to the tribes and let them know about the surveys and make sure they have this information also. Probation officers and case managers are not always solid contacts to help locate youth. A lot of times once they're off your caseload, you don't always know where they are. So having other people on the contact list is great. And of course, youth involved in corrections are harder to find. A lot of times as social services, we may not be as involved with those youth. And so we don't get as much information.
Thanks, Kim. I did have a follow-up video on how to create the contact in SSIS, but we are running out of time, unfortunately. So I will say that there is a job aid and a module posted on our SSIS resource page, and those links are on the current PDF that Heidi had sent out prior to the webinar. But I do want to just direct everybody's attention over to our SSIS resource page and show you where you can find that information. So if you navigate to the SSIS resource page and to worker documentation here under SSIS training, everything that you will find regarding today's webinar and related modules and job aids can be found under Adolescent Services MNYTD. So we have an updated MNYTD module here that you can select. And then there's individual job aids for the MNYTD IL services, contact sheets, as well as some tips. So just want to circle back to the question here that was asked. So Angie asks, so we enter this MNYTD data every year or just certain years every 3 years? And I followed up and just said MNYTD IL services for youth 14 and up should be entered all year, every year for youth 14 and up who are receiving services, and make sure that they are entered and clear and accurate every September 30th or March 31st before they're pulled for that report. And then we have MNYTD surveys that are due every 3 federal fiscal years, such as the year coming up. The federal fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th every year. However, there are specific federal fiscal years that we pull the MNYTD data, the MNYTD survey data for, and that is every 3 years, including the one coming up. So I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Kim.
Nope, sounds good.
And somebody's asking if they completed a search and there is a youth showing up as due for a survey from last year, do we need to follow up with the youth to complete that survey? The
No,
cases for a youth closed on July 31st of 25.
the answer is no. There was not a survey due last year.
And then if the youth has an emergency contact, who would that be? Or sorry, if the youth has an emergency contact, who would that be as well?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if they have an emergency contact, I would add that person onto the contact list. There's not anywhere specific that we ask youth for an emergency contact that I'm aware of.
Okay, and we will wrap today's webinar up with some scenarios. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to throw them into the chat. So this is going to be related to MNYTD surveys. And once again, the next round of surveys is October 1st of 2025. So coming up through September 30th of 2026. So the scenario on the left-hand side, a youth that turns age 17 on October 15th, 2025, while she was in foster care. The answer is outcomes data must be collected by November 29th, 2025. A youth that turns age 17 on December 1st, 2025, and enters foster care on January 5th of 2026. The answer is that outcomes data must be collected by January 15th of 2026. And then finally, we have a youth that turns age 17 on September 30th, 2026, and enters foster care on October 5th of 2026. Outcomes data must be collected by November 14th, 2026. And then examples of youth not included in MNYTD baseline. A youth that turns age 17 on September 30th, 2025 and enters foster care on October 1st of 2025. No outcomes data should be collected because the youth turned age 17 before the beginning of the federal reporting period. A youth that turns age 17 on October 15th, 2025 and enters foster care on December 10th. This is kind of tricky. No outcomes data should be collected because the youth entered foster care more than 45 days after turning 17. So there's a little bit of a trick there. A youth that turns age 17 while in foster care on October 1st of 2026. No outcomes data will be collected because the youth turned age 17 during a federal fiscal year in which baseline data are not required to be collected. So we're going to, instead of doing trivia at the end of our session here, we're going to look and see if there's any additional questions. Should the contacts with the survey be only people youth identifies or anyone the caseworker can think of? I'm going to say that the youth should be the driver of the contacts.
I would agree. And I would also
Okay.
say if the worker knows that there's someone who the youth might not have thought of, to bring that up with the youth, and then you can do the contact sheet together.
And then a follow-up from Kathy. Normally, most persons, including youth, have an emergency contact for the most important person in their life. So a field in SSIS for this situation in SSIS would be beneficial. So that sounds like a little bit of an enhancement request, and we can have you phone that into the help desk for that to be looked into and prioritized. Okay, so we'll finish today's session by showing you some MNYTD resources. MNYTD questions, context, and resources include the DCYF Foster Youth in Transitions email handle listed here at the top. You can continue those questions, those policy-related questions coming in to Kim, and she will address those as they arise. We have the bulletin listed here for folks to familiarize themselves with. And we also have the Youth in Transition website with the Minnesota Department of Human Services and the newly updated SSIS MNYTD module that is available now, and it will show you all of the highlights that we covered today in many of the videos, including those searches. And we have all kinds of SSIS resources located at the end of our presentation today for folks to take a look at. This webinar will be posted to the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy SSIS training page in 7 to 10 business days. So you'll get to review this information if you'd like, and it will be posted with the PowerPoint as well. And I'm going to hand it over to Heidi to finish and announce our next coffee talk.
Oh, well, I didn't know I was going to do that, but thanks, Eric.
Surprise.
Our October coffee talk is going to be hosted by the SSIS Learning and Development team. They're going to be providing updates on the latest and greatest of what's happening in their world. That's going to be Tuesday, October 28th at 9 o'clock. And you can refer to the SSIS update or the Engagement HQ page for additional information. And I will also post the registration link in the chat. So anyway, I'm not sure who's up next, but
Thank you,
so
Slide
thank you.
is. Thanks everybody for taking time out of your day. Thanks for all you do for your agencies. Again, check out the presentation for additional contact and resource information. We definitely appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
And don't forget, Radio Ross out and Minnesota stay golden.
Thanks, everybody.